Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice little 7-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It helps the channel a lot. I do have 3 core plays and Jazz Chisholm Jr., Willie Abreu, and then JP Crawford here, and we'll get into that as we go through the slate. So let's go ahead and get into it with the pitchers. I should note that there's no weather concerns today, so that's nice for a change. Pitching is a little bit rough today as we really don't have any super pitchers on this one, but we do have some decent plays. I think we have 5 pitchers to kind of choose from, but we have a few that are in really tough matchups, so let's just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So we're going to start here at the top with Tanner Hope for Boston. Now, he has been up and down throughout the season. His K rate has been suspect as a result of that. Even with the good earned run average, he's had some really low strikeout games. He does have some upside here, but I do expect Oakland to score a couple of runs in this one, as that's kind of what he's been doing all season long. So I think he'll give up a couple earned runs. Hopefully he doesn't. Of course, Oakland is a good home run team, and he has limited the home runs. So I do think he's a guy that can actually do well here, but he's a little contrarian on the slate. His ownership will be relatively high, but his K rate is the big concern on this one. But he is a GPP play. Looking at Castillo for Seattle, now he's also a GPP play, and he's got a better K rate than Hope does. He's probably one of the better options simply because he's facing the Angels. He's struggled a lot lately, though, with 4 of his past 6 games been under 10 fantasy points. His K rate could save him here, and he's dominated the Angels already once this season, so he's definitely interesting on the slate. Max Fried for Atlanta, also somewhat interesting today, though he does have a tougher matchup against Arizona. I do think that he has some upside today. He has had some decent games, but his K rate is also a little bit lower than I'd like. He's not a must play, and his K rate isn't awesome, but he does have some potential in this game as he's got one of the better matchups despite it being kind of mid level. Looking at Aaron Nola, he's got an absolutely horrible matchup against the Dodgers, but he does draw some good potential today against them as he has a decent K rate. The question here is if the Dodgers can get to him, but he's been pretty solid all season long with a lot of 20 fantasy point games. He doesn't have the highest of ceilings, though, so do keep that in mind, but he does have a pretty safe floor despite the tough matchup. Looking at Cortez for the Yankees, he does feel risky here, but he has a good K rate, and there aren't a whole lot of good options on the slate, and he's probably one of the better choices. I think he's one of my favorite plays of pitcher, just because of that the price point and situation there. If we look at a Hail Mary play, that would be Bloss, for the Houston Astros. Now he's $4,600. $6,200. The last time he pitched, he got hurt in the game, but he had given up 2 earned runs against Baltimore. This should be a little bit easier match here against Miami. There's only really one guy on Miami that has a lot of potential today, and that's Chisholm Jr. And so he does have some potential, but he might be on a pitch limit coming off of the injury list. So do keep that in mind. But he is a Hail Mary only play. He's not somebody I would utilize unless you just absolutely have to. Let's go and get into our catchers here. So Cal Raleigh is the top overall play. Now, he hasn't hit the ball particularly great this season, but his home run metrics are good today, and he has good upside in this matchup. I do think Seattle's a pretty good team to look at today as a decent value team overall. Connor Wong has hit the ball better. He doesn't have the home run upside that Raleigh does, but he is a relatively safe play today at $4,000, and I think Boston's one of my favorite teams on this slate, so he's going to have a lot of potential. Yanir Diaz is kind of a contrarian play today. He doesn't have the best on. He's not better than Raleigh at home runs or better at hitting than Wong, but he's a good contrarian play, and he's priced pretty fairly on the slate. The top ownership at this position will be Mitch Garver, Connor Wong, and Cal Raleigh, and low ownership will be Miguel Amaya for the Cubs. Looking at first base, Matt Olson does jump off the page as the top play at this position, though he has struggled this season. He has been hitting the ball better, and so he does have that home run upside today. But there's a lot of guys that are pretty expensive today at this position. But if Bryce Harper does play today, he'd be somebody I would consider, though he didn't play the last game, so do keep that in mind. If he comes back today, then he should be somebody that's got some upside, but he is pretty expensive here. Ryan Mountcastle for Baltimore has been a little bit inconsistent, at least recently, but he does have good metrics today. A little bit of home run upside, not a ton, but he does have that nice price point, which definitely helps you use him. And then kind of the contrarian option today will be Ben Rice for the Yankees. He's been very boom or bust lately. He's striking out a bunch, but he also has been hitting the ball insane with a lot of power in some of his games, so he does have that home run upside, and his home runs have been absolutely monster hits. So it seems like he's just swinging for the fences a lot, and so if you can get uh, if you can, he's risky, but he is priced relatively fairly at $3,800. So, and he does have that home run upside. Top ownership at this position will be Bryce Harper, Ohtani, and John Singleton. The low-owned upside guys: Ty France, Dominique Smith, Jake Berger, Matt Olson, and Isaac Paredes there for that position. Looking at second base, we do like Jose Altuve here. Uh, Nathan, I can look at that in a minute. I'll try to do that in the video for a second. Jose Altuve, $5,300. He is the best overall play for Houston. He does look really solid today, though. There's a lot of guys priced in this price range at this position. So Ketel Marte, he does have a tougher match against Atlanta, but I do think he's got some home run potential today. And then David Hamilton, he's priced up a lot, but he has hit the ball pretty well, though he does not have a lot of home run upside, but just a good multi-hit potential option. But the good value play today is going to be Polanco, and I really wanted to kind of make him a core play, but honestly, his hitting has been too inconsistent. But his metrics are really solid today for a good game, and he's been getting some hits in the last few games that gives him some upside. Looking at the ownership, Altuve, Polanco, and Hamilton are going to be top ones. Low ownership upside guys will be Ozzy Albies, Miles, Master Albani from the Cubs, and Dylan Moore. Looking at third base, we will look at Rafael Devers as the top overall play. The metrics here are just off the charts. He is a home runner best kind of player, though, so do keep that in mind. Other options will be Chris Morel for the Cubs. Now, he does draw some good metrics here, but he has been hitting the ball better, but he's not scoring a ton of fantasy points in some of these games, and his batting average has been absolutely abysmal because he's striking out more than he's doing anything else. So he is in play, but he's definitely high risk, high reward. Austin Riley is very interesting today as he's improved his hitting lately. He's got home run upside today, a little bit pricey, but not as expensive as Devers. And then Alex Bregman, he's going to come in as one of our more, consistent players on the slate. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He's also hit Miami really good so far this season, so I do like his upside in this matchup. And I think he's one of my favorite plays. He's going to be the top ownership guy as well. Ahmad Rosario, Chris Morel, and Devers will all be high owned. And then low owned upside guys: Austin Riley, Jake Berger, Josh Rojas, and Isaac Paredes. Looking at our shortstops here, we will look at Trey Turner being the top overall play here. He has some good upside on the slate, and Philly looks really good on this one. I think he's going to be hard to roster at the price point, though. David Hamilton can also play here at shortstop. But J.P. Crawford is probably my favorite play at this position because of his price point and because he's got a lot of potential today for getting a couple hits. He hasn't been particularly great at the hitting, but he is and he does strike out a lot, but he is getting a lot of opportunities, and he's got a favorable situation here, so he's going to be a core play despite that tough situation. Ahmad Rosario, J.P. Crawford, Trey Turner, and David Hamilton are the top owned options, and then the low owned upsides: Jeremy Pena, Dansby Swanson, Sedini, Rafala also. Looking at outfielders, we do like. Let's see here. Hang on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. My thing broke here. What the heck? Oh, okay, sorry. So looking at our top ownership options at this position, Duran for Boston is the top overall play, though he is very expensive. Juan Soto also expensive today, but he's in play. Kyle Schwarber will be the top play from Philly in the outfield, and then Julio Rodriguez. Now, I really like Julio Rodriguez, but he's just priced in a situation where you can't really fit him in all that easily today, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. But I do think he's somebody that I really wanted to be close to making a core play on the slate. I just have a good feeling about him. You could actually switch him out for Jazz Chisholm if you wanted when it comes to core plays, so do keep that in mind. But Chisholm Jr. is my favorite play right now with his home run upside in this game. He has a lot, and so he's definitely in play, though he is risky in a tougher matchup. He's the only guy on Miami that looks really good today. Willie Abreu has struggled sometimes this season, but he draws absolutely fantastic metrics again today, so he's definitely worth a look. Now, some other guys that we consider: Yoshida for Boston is a nice cheap play, and Kalinick from Atlanta is a really solid cheap play as well. I think those two guys are very good contrarian options off the top three. Then we'll look at Sia Suzuki, Eddie Rosario, Ian Happ, and Brandon Marsh as our contrarian options on the slate. Top ownership at this position: Tyler O'Neill, Luke Rayleigh, Masataka Yoshida, Kyle Schwarber, Randy Arozarena, Otani, and Jared Kalinick. Low-owned guys: Julio Rodriguez, Jazz Chisholm, Jaron Duran, Aaron Judge, Sia Suzuki, Ian Happ, and Adam Duvall. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. Let me look at the other slate real quick, the early slate, and kind of give you my thoughts on it here. So let's look at this here. Let's see here. I won't be able to pull up anything on DraftKings, but let's look at this. Let's see if I can do it like this. Hang on. 1 second, guys. Okay. There we go. All right, so let's look at this slate. So, 1 second here. Let me pull it. All right, for pitchers, let's see. It looks like Paul Skeens going to be a top over a pitcher. He does have a tougher matchup against Milwaukee. I also think Hunter Green has some potential today as well. Hang on. Let me pull this up. Let me get this other pulled up. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. And we got a game in Colorado or in Cincinnati today, rather. But let's hang on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get this early slate pulled up here on my thing, and then I can do that here. Okay. So for pitchers, Skeens and Hunter Green definitely look the best here. But I do think see Jack Flaherty does project decently well as well, and so does Aaron Savell. So Milwaukee's pitcher has a little bit of upside being a dirt cheap play on the slate. Let's look at catchers. Let's see. Tyler Stevenson and Carson Kelly are probably in the top situations, and they're both pretty cheap today. Carson Kelly's got an interesting matchup against Cleveland, and then Stevenson, obviously being in Cincinnati, Gombers are pretty rough pitchers. So I think those two guys are probably the top overall options, but of course William Contreras is on the slate as an option. Looking at first base, Cincinnati, Spencer Steer or Jamir Candelario seem to look like the best options here at this position. Let's look at second base here. Let's see. Jonathan India, maybe Colt Keith are probably the top two guys at that position. Looking at third base, let's see. Candelario can also play here at third. Marte for Cincinnati also looks interesting today. Zach McKinstry for Detroit also interesting today. I think Detroit's going to be a sneaky team on this particular slate. Doesn't look like they're going to have this much ownership either, so that's nice. Looking at shortstops, not many options here. Holy crap, shortstop is weak today. For this slate, at least. Francisco Lindor, probably the top overall play. Make it super easy. He's super expensive. He's expensive, but he's got the best matchup metrics by a lot, unless you want to use Detroit's Baez or McKinstry there. And then outfielders. Let's see here. Hang on. Spencer Steer can be the top overall play, obviously playing out here in the outfield. Reese Hines, Austin Slater, and Winslow Perez definitely jump off the page as better options. Brandon Nemo also looks good today. JD Martinez, Matt Vierling, he's been hitting the ball very well lately. Definitely try to roster this dude right here, Reese Hines. He's been absolutely phenomenal so far. In his 3 games, he's been over 10 fantasy points in all 3. His price is starting to come up finally. Some other guys, well, not much else there I don't like. That's pretty much what I have for that. But we do have some interesting plays there. So with that said, guys,